Everyone said Princess Elara was perfect. That was the word they used, perfect, the kind people lean on when they don't really understand what they're looking at, but know they're supposed to be impressed. Perfect posture, perfect poise. Perfect beauty preserved in silk and jewels and centuries of carefully maintained mystery. I believed it too. Right up until the moment I stood alone with her in the royal fitting room and realized something was very, very wrong. I was just a tailor. Not a courtier, not a noble, not important enough to have opinions about princesses. My job was simple: measure, stitch, adjust, leave. Keep my eyes down, my mouth shut, and my hands steady. That was the rule when you worked for royalty, especially her. The room itself felt wrong the second I stepped inside. Too quiet. Thick velvet curtains blocked the daylight, and the air smelled faintly metallic beneath the incense. Gold-framed mirrors lined the walls, but they didn't quite reflect the room the way they should have. The candlelight bent strangely, as if the shadows were heavier than they had any right to be. Princess Elara stood in the center, facing away from me. She didn't move when I entered. "Begin," she said, calmly. Her voice was smooth, practiced, perfectly royal, and somehow distant, like it had traveled a long way to reach me. I swallowed and approached, tape measure in hand. Up close, she was even more striking. Porcelain skin untouched by age, dark hair pinned with jeweled clasps, a gown so finely made it felt sacrilegious to breathe near it. Every detail screamed refinement. Control? Stillness. Too much stillness? "Please raise your arm slightly," I said. She did, slow and precise, no hesitation, no discomfort. Just obedience to the process. I started with the shoulders, then the waist. Everything measured exactly as the records said it would. No changes. No variation. That should have comforted me. Instead, my unease grew. People shift when you measure them. They breathe. They fidget. Even nobles do when they think no one is watching. Elara didn't. Her chest didn't rise the way it should have. Not naturally. I hesitated. "Is something wrong?" she asked without turning. "No," I lied. "Just the clasp here. It seems tighter than usual." Her pause was brief, barely noticeable. "Proceed carefully," she said. My fingers reached the front of her gown, where the intricate fastenings lay hidden beneath embroidered fabric. As I worked the latch loose, I felt a faint warmth under my fingertips. Not body heat, something deeper, something mechanical. The latch gave way with a soft click, and then the dress shifted. At first, my mind refused to process what I was seeing. It tried to rationalize. Light trick, jewelry. Some elaborate understructure I wasn't trained to recognize. Then I saw the movement. Beneath the parted fabric, her chest wasn't flesh and bone. It was clockwork. Golden gears, layered and precise, turning in slow, deliberate rotations. Tiny pistons rose and fell in rhythm, and between them, glowing blue liquid pulsed softly, leaking from a hairline fracture like blood that didn't belong in any living body. I staggered back, the tape measure slipping from my hand. Elara turned to face me. Her eyes were glowing now, not reflected light, but something internal, cold and bright. She watched my reaction with something that might have been resignation. "You weren't supposed to see that," she said quietly. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. My hands were shaking. The room felt smaller, the air thicker. "You may scream," she added, almost gently. "Most do." I did. The sound tore out of me before I could stop it, echoing off the stone walls. I stumbled into a chair, heart pounding so hard it hurt. My gaze locked on the impossible machinery where a human heart should have been. What are you?" I gasped. She looked down at herself, then back at me. "I am Princess Elara," she said, "and I am running out of time." The blue glow flickered. One of the gears stuttered, then resumed turning with a faint, uneven click. "I chose you because tailors notice details," she continued. "And because if anyone could see the truth and still keep steady hands, it would be someone like you." My stomach dropped. "You're dying," I whispered. "Yes." Guards shouted somewhere beyond the door. Footsteps were coming fast. Elara met my eyes, her expression no longer distant or perfect, but afraid. "If they find you here," she said, "you will not leave this room alive." And that was the moment I understood. This wasn't just a fitting. It was a test, and I had already failed the safe way out. The shouting outside the fitting room door was getting louder. Boots, metal on stone. Orders being barked in sharp, clipped tones that didn't sound like concern. They sounded like containment. My heart was still hammering from the scream I hadn't meant to let out, and now every instinct I had was telling me to run. I didn't, because Princess Elara was swaying on her feet. The glow in her chest flickered again, weaker this time, and one of the gears made a grinding sound that turned my stomach. Whatever secret she was hiding under silk and jewels, it was failing. Fast. They'll kill you, she said again more urgently now. Not out of cruelty, out of necessity. That's not comforting. I managed, my voice cracking. Her lips twitched, like she almost smiled. It isn't meant to be. I looked around the room, desperate for something, anything that explained what I was seeing. Mirrors, candles, gold trim, no tools, no emergency devices. Nothing that belonged in a room where a princess was quietly falling apart. You need help, I said. A physician, an engineer, someone who knows. I know, she cut in. And none of them can be here. Not yet. The blue liquid pulsed again, brighter for half a second, then dimmed. She pressed a hand lightly over the exposed clockwork, as if instinctively trying to hold herself together. I am not supposed to be revealed until the succession, she said. If the court learns the truth before that, there will be panic, war, possibly both. My mind struggled to keep up. The truth being you're a machine. She shook her head slowly. I am alive. That answer felt heavier than if she'd said yes. The door rattled as someone tried the handle. Elara, a voice called from the other side. Male. Authority. Fear just barely held in check. Opened the door. Her shoulders tensed. If they see you, she said softly, they will assume you sabotaged me, that you discovered my secret and attempted to expose it. I didn't do anything, I whispered. That will not matter. Another flicker, stronger this time. She gasped, not theatrically, not dramatically, but in a sharp, involuntary way that made it painfully clear something essential was failing. My fear shifted. It didn't disappear, but it moved aside, making room for something else. Focus. The same feeling I got when a loom jammed or a stitch went wrong at the worst possible moment. Panic didn't fix things. Hands did. You said you chose me, I said. Why? Her eyes met mine. Fully now. No royal distance. No practiced calm. Because you work with mechanisms meant to look beautiful while hiding strain, she said. And because tailors understand tension. Where it gathers, where it breaks. The door banged again. Harder. Elara, this is your last warning. She reached out and grabbed my wrist. Her grip was surprisingly warm. Alive, trembling. There is a stabilizer port behind the third gear, she said quickly. I can guide you, but only if you don't hesitate. I stared at the exposed clockwork, the glowing fluid, the impossibility of it all. You're asking me to put my hands inside your chest? Yes, and if I do it wrong? She swallowed. Then I will stop. The word die hung between us, unspoken and enormous. I laughed then. A short, breathless sound that surprised both of us. I was worried about getting blood on the dress. Her eyes widened slightly. You're strange. So I've been told. The lock on the door began to disengage. Now, she said. I stepped forward. Up close, the clockwork was mesmerizing, each gear engraved with symbols I didn't recognize, humming softly, like it was trying very hard to keep time with a body that no longer quite fit it. Heat radiated from the core. Not burning, working lower, she murmured, guiding me, slowly. Yes, there! My fingers brushed the edge of the stabilizer port, and the moment I touched it, the blue glow flared violently. Elara cried out, her body jerking as if struck by current. I'm sorry! I blurted. Don't stop, she gasped. Please. The door burst open. Guards flooded the room, weapons half raised, eyes snapping from me to Elara to the exposed machinery in her chest. For a split second, no one moved, no one breathed. Then Elara straightened. Stand down, she said. Her voice was weaker than before, but it carried. The guards hesitated, shock rippling through their ranks as they took in the sight of her uncovered core. The glowing fluid, my hand still pressed against something no one was ever meant to see. This human, she continued, is the reason I am still functioning. One of the guards whispered something that sounded like a prayer. Another took a step toward me. Elara's hand tightened on my wrist. "If he dies," she said, eyes blazing despite the flicker in her chest. "So do I." Silence crashed down harder than the shouting ever had. And in that moment, with my hand inside a princess's chest and armed men staring at me like I'd shattered the world, I realized something very important. Whatever Elara was, whatever secret she was made of, I was already part of it, and there was no stitching my way out now. No one moved. That was the most terrifying part. The guards stood frozen in a half circle around us, weapons angled but undecided, as if the laws of the kingdom had just cracked, and no one knew which side gravity was on anymore. Behind them, courtiers and attendants crowded the hallway, craning to see, whispering prayers and rumors into existence. Princess Elara swayed. I felt it before I saw it. Her grip on my wrist loosened for half a heartbeat, the subtle tremor running through her arm like a skipped gear. The blue glow inside her chest pulsed erratically, no longer rhythmic, more like a heartbeat trying to remember itself. "She's destabilizing," I said, before I even realized I was speaking. Every head snapped toward me. The captain of the guard stepped forward. His armor was polished to a mirror sheen, his expression carefully neutral, but his eyes betrayed him. Fear, not of me, of her. "Remove your hand," he ordered. Slowly. Elara inhaled sharply. "If he does, I collapse." The captain hesitated. I didn't blame him. From where he stood, I must have looked like a lunatic tailor with his arm buried in royal secrets, a walking scandal, one bad decision away from treason. But from where I knelt, I could feel the truth humming under my fingertips. Heat. Motion. Life. "This isn't sabotage," I said, forcing my voice steady. "It's a mechanical failure. She needs stabilization, not interrogation." Silence. The captain snapped. "You are not." "She chose him," Elara said. That stopped everything. Not shouted. Not commanded. Just stated, with the quiet authority of someone who knew exactly how much weight her words carried. Murmurs rippled through the room. "Chose him?" Someone whispered. The captain's jaw tightened. "Your Highness, if what we are seeing is true, protocol demands immediate containment. The council must be informed." "No," Elara said. "Protocol assumes I am an object." Her gaze swept the room, and for the first time I saw anger in her eyes. Not panic, not fear, anger, controlled, honed, ancient. "I am not a relic," she continued, "nor a weapon. I am the sovereign heir of this kingdom, and I am failing because the systems meant to sustain me are outdated." The blue glow flared again, brighter this time, but unstable. Like a flame starving for air. My fingers brushed the stabilizer port involuntarily, and she hissed in pain. "Don't," she whispered. "Not yet." I swallowed. "You said there was a way." "There is," she said, "but it requires trust. On both sides." The captain exhaled slowly. "Your Highness, you are asking us to trust a common tailor with knowledge that could unravel the throne." She looked at him then, really looked at him. "No. I am asking you to trust me." Silence stretched. Then, reluctantly, the captain raised one hand. "Lower your weapons." The guards obeyed, though none of them looked comfortable doing it. Elara sagged slightly, relief and exhaustion colliding. I shifted instinctively, bracing her weight without thinking. She leaned into me for a fraction of a second, and that was when it hit me. She wasn't light. She wasn't fragile porcelain or hollow metal. She was dense, solid, real. "You need tools," I said. "Precision tools." "Fine ones. There is a maintenance chamber beneath the palace," Elara said. "Built before my birth." "Few know of it. Then let's go," I said. The captain frowned. "We cannot move her in this condition." Elara's lips curved faintly. "Then we improvise." She turned her head toward me. "Can you do this here?" I hesitated, not because I didn't want to help, but because suddenly the room felt very small for what she was asking. "I repair looms," I said. "Timepieces. Automata toys for nobles who like pretending they understand complexity." Her eyes softened. "And yet your hands are steady." The glow inside her chest flickered again, and she gasped. "Decision made. Clear the room," I said, surprising myself with the authority in my voice. "I need space, and light, and no sudden movements." The captain stared at me incredulous. "Elara," I added quietly, If I'm going to do this, I need you to talk me through it. No half-truths." She nodded once. Agreed. The guards began ushering people out, sealing doors, drawing curtains. Within moments, the room transformed from a royal-fitting chamber into something closer to an operating theater. Candles were repositioned, lanterns brought in. Someone draped a cloak over Elara's shoulders to preserve a shred of dignity. I took a breath. Up close, the clockwork core was even more intricate than I'd realized. Layers upon layers of interlocking systems, some mechanical, some crystalline, some made of materials I couldn't name. The blue fluid coursed through transparent channels, pooling dangerously at one junction. "That's the problem," I said. "Pressure buildup." "Yes," Elara replied. "The stabilizer was designed for ceremonial output, not prolonged exposure." "Exposure to what?" I asked. She paused. "To being seen," she said quietly. I didn't press. There would be time for answers later, if there was a later. "All right," I murmured, slipping into the familiar mental space of repair. "I need to relieve the pressure before rerouting." "Third gear," she said, counterclockwise slowly. I adjusted my grip and turned it a fraction. The response was immediate. The blue glow dimmed, then steadied. Elara exhaled sharply, her shoulders relaxing. "It's working," I said. A ripple of astonishment passed through the guards. "Again," she said. "Just a little." I did, sweat trickling down my spine. Every movement felt like diffusing a bomb that was also a person. "Thea," I said. "Flo's evening out." Her head tipped back, eyes fluttering closed for a second. "You're doing well?" "Don't say that," I muttered. "That's how things go wrong." A faint laugh escaped her. "You really are strange." Minutes passed, maybe seconds. Time blurred into careful adjustments and whispered instructions. Slowly, the glow stabilized, settling into a steady, gentle pulse. The grinding sound faded. Finally, Elara straightened fully. She was breathing evenly now, alive. I pulled my hand back at last, fingers trembling, and sat back hard on the floor. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the captain knelt, not to me. "To her. My apologies, Your Highness," he said. I doubted. Elara adjusted her cloak, concealing the clockwork once more. When she stood, there was no weakness in her posture, only quiet command. "See that the council is informed," she said. "But on my terms." "Yes, Your Highness." She turned to me. The room seemed to hold its breath again. "You saved my life," she said. I swallowed. "I think I just kept you from breaking." She smiled at that. Not the practiced smile of a princess, but something real. "In my world," she said softly. "That distinction matters." Her gaze lingered on me, thoughtful now. Measuring. "You have touched the core of the crown," she continued. "That cannot be undone." I felt a chill that had nothing to do with fear. "What happens now?" I asked. Her smile faded, just a little. "Now," she said, "you must decide whether you wish to remain a tailor or become a secret." Somewhere deep in the palace, a bell began to toll. And I knew, without doubt, that this was only the beginning. By the time I understood what Princess Elara truly was, the room had gone very quiet again. Not the awkward quiet from before, not the kind that presses on your ears, but a deeper one, as if the castle itself was holding its breath to see what I would do next. The blue glow leaking from her chest pulsed slowly now, no longer frantic, almost calm, like a heart that had accepted its fate. She closed the clasps of her dress with steady fingers, though I could tell it wasn't strength holding her together anymore. It was habit. 100 years of pretending had taught her how to stand straight even when the truth was tearing through her seams. "You have seen enough," she said softly. There was no anger in her voice, no threat, just exhaustion. Most men scream, some faint, a few run. None are invited to stay. I should have run. Every sensible thought in my head was shouting at me to bow, apologize, back away, and never set foot in the royal wing again. That was the smart choice, the safe one. But standing there, needle forgotten on the floor, hands still trembling, I realized something uncomfortable. I wasn't afraid of her anymore. I was afraid for her. "They're killing you," I said before I could stop myself. Her lips curved into a sad smile. "They already did. Long ago." She turned away from me, moving toward the tall mirror framed in black iron. In the reflection, I saw her as the world did, flawless, radiant, untouchable. But I also saw the faint blue light bleeding through the fabric, the truth no one else was allowed to notice. "They call me the Clockwork Princess," she continued, "a miracle of preservation, a symbol. When my body began to fail, the court alchemists and engineers promised salvation. They replaced what broke, one piece at a time, heart first, then lungs, then things I didn't even know had names." She rested her hand over her chest. "What remains is complicated," I swallowed. "And the liquid? Life," she said simply, "or what passes for it now. It leaks when the mechanisms strain. When I feel too much." The words sat heavy between us. Too much. Fear, stress, loneliness. I thought of the way she'd stood alone in crowded halls, the way people admired her beauty without ever daring to touch her. A princess preserved like a relic, polished daily, never allowed to rest. "They won't let you stop," I said. "Will they?" She shook her head. "The kingdom needs its princess. A dying woman is a tragedy. An eternal one is hope." She finally faced me again, her glowing eyes searching my face as if weighing a decision she had postponed for decades. "That is why you cannot leave, Taylor." "Not yet." My heart skipped. "I'm not part of this," I said quickly. "I don't know anything about machines. I just stitch fabric." "You stitch truth," she replied. "You see what others ignore. And now you know what I am." For a moment, I thought she might call guards, have me silenced, erased quietly from the palace records. Instead, she stepped closer. Not close enough to touch, but close enough that I could feel the warmth of the glow beneath her dress, hear the faint ticking buried deep within her chest. "I am failing faster," she said. "The engineers cannot fix what they do not understand anymore. They replace parts without asking why they break. But you," her gaze dropped briefly to my hands. "You noticed the strain points, the misalignment. You saw where the dress pulled wrong because I was wrong beneath it." I shook my head slowly. "Your Highness, I'm just a man with thread." She smiled again, and this time there was something almost playful in it. "Exactly." The castle bells rang in the distance, marking the hour. Somewhere outside, life went on. Servants hurried, nobles schemed, and the kingdom slept comfortably beneath the illusion she upheld. Inside the fitting room, the lie had cracked open, and neither of us could pretend it hadn't. "If I help you," I said carefully. "I don't even know what that means." "It means you stay," she replied. "It means you observe, you listen. You tell me when something feels wrong even if no one else notices. And when the time comes," her voice softened, "you help me choose." "Choose what?" She looked past me, toward the door, toward the world that demanded she keep ticking forever. "Whether I continue like this, or whether I finally stop." The weight of that settled on my chest like stone. A tailor asked to decide the fate of a living legend. Not with scissors or thread, but with honesty, with presence. "I can't promise I'll be brave," I said quietly. She inclined her head. "I don't need brave, I need real!" A soft knock came at the door. A servant's voice followed, careful and deferential. "Your Highness, the council awaits." The glow beneath her dress dimmed as she straightened, the princess mask sliding back into place with practiced ease. Before she turned away, she met my eyes one last time. "You will return tomorrow," she said, not as a question. I nodded. As she left the room, regal and untouchable once more, I bent to pick up my needle from the floor. It felt absurdly small in my fingers. But for the first time, I understood its weight. Not just a tool to mend cloth, but a symbol of something fragile being held together by care, not command. I followed her out moments later, my thoughts racing, my life quietly and irrevocably altered. I had come to take measurements. I was leaving with a secret older than most nations, and a promise I hadn't yet spoken out loud. Behind the closed door, somewhere deep within the princess's chest, the clockwork ticked on. For now. And I couldn't shake the feeling that the next time it faltered, the choice would no longer be hers alone.